She's 25-year-old female. Her husband, 28-year-old male, lost interest in sex. My husband and I have been married for 6 months, and I love him more than ever. He's a great man and will do anything for me, but I can't help but to question one thing. Ever since we got married, our sex life has been on the decline. We are both still young and have a lot of energy left in us. Before marriage, we were constantly on top of each other, like couldn't keep our hands off each other, and I wouldn't have to do much to turn him on. Just touching him would do the trick, or literally wearing a sexy outfit. We both come from very religious families, so sex before marriage wasn't encouraged. I'm starting to think the thrill of it turned him on, and now that we're married and we're supposed to be having sex, he doesn't find it as fun. I miss that part of our relationship a lot. I miss having fun and trying new things. I literally have to work so hard just to get him in the mood. It kind of makes me question if he's as attracted to me as he was before. I can tell at times he's making excuses to not have sex. I did get pregnant in January. It was planned, but our sex life was on the decline prior to that. Now, another excuse he's been using is that he's scared to hurt the baby. Other than that, I haven't changed the way I look. I take great care of myself and of him. I just don't know what it could be. I understand that it may be that he just doesn't want sex at the moment, but it literally changed with the flip of a switch from having sex every day or every other day to once every 2 weeks. I talked to him about it, and there is literally no explanation from him. He does things that hurt me. Like recently I asked him for sex, but he said he was too tired, then continued to touch himself instead when I got out of bed. He spends most nights on the couch because he accidentally falls asleep, so I miss that connection as well. I feel really lonely, which is weird because he's right there, but it's a different type of lonely. I don't think he doesn't love me anymore or doesn't want to spend time with me, but there is literally just no touch unless I beg for it or ask for it. I'm starting to literally crave his touch so much. It makes me feel defeated and unconfident. TMI, but I literally can't even touch myself anymore because I just get upset and want him.
Wow.
When we do have sex, I'm the one who constantly initiates it, and sometimes I feel like he just does it because I want to. I miss the feeling of being wanted and feeling sexy. Has anyone ever experienced this? Men, have any of you felt this way after marriage?
There's so much in that.
It's a long one.
That's a very long one, and there's so much in that. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. One, that sounds incredibly confusing and incredibly painful, and I can't imagine, it makes sense if she's questioning like what's going on if it's just a flip of a switch with marriage,
What's
right?
changed? What's happened? Right.
So many intricate pieces here. One, we have talked about safety versus adventure, right? Like if you feel safe in a relationship, which if you're getting married, hopefully you are, right? Like if you're feeling safe, maybe some of that adventure has declined, and maybe that means some of the desire has declined too, which is really common, can happen, especially in longer term relationships. We've talked about that in a different video, right? So yeah,
they seem quite early in their relationship for this to be happening. Now, she's 25, he's 28. I don't think she says how long they were together before they got married, but they've only been married 6 months. And so, like, I think that's valid that, the loss of adventure does play a role in, just sex feeling more mundane or routine and, or losing some interest in that because it's not as novel. But it does seem a little bit unusual for this to be happening this early on as newlyweds.
But she might be onto something with the loss of adventure due to the religious background.
I think that what I was thinking was that perhaps, both of them coming from religious families and sex being discouraged before marriage, that, well, if you're engaging in sex before marriage, it's a very taboo and thrilling, and we're not supposed to be doing this kind of experience. And also sometimes there's feelings of shame that get wrapped up in that as well. There's a lot of conflicting emotions that can happen if you're having sex before marriage and you have religious beliefs. And so that might kind of become intertwined in your arousal template, like with what is arousing. And perhaps that might be what's happening for her husband, that he associates. We talked about this in our kink, was it the kink show we did? Where we talk about conditioning. Yes. Like how in our brains we can kind of condition two different things, right? Why certain kinks might develop. I'm avoiding the F word. Anyway, FETIS. Can I spell things on YouTube and like it won't flag us? I don't know. But anyway, certain things can become linked in our arousal template and kind of like in our wiring. And so now that they're married and they're free to have all the sex they want without any shame attached to that, at least in regards to religious beliefs, well, that's not really what has been linked in his brain potentially. Like it's the taboo and the fact that we're not supposed to be doing this that maybe was really exciting. So I'm just wondering if there's a term for this. I think Freud came up with the Madonna, WHORE complex. I don't know if I can say that. I don't even know if spelling it is okay. But that there's a theory that for some, his theory was around men in particular, that they compartmentalize their sexual arousal for the more promiscuous, sexually alluring female. And that when a woman becomes this nurturing, caregiver, maternal figure, the good wife, in their lives, they lose the sexual part of themselves, that they still feel romantic feelings and love towards that person, but the sexual part is lost. There's been some research that's been done on this theory. I think that there's some research that suggests there might be truth to this, but it is interesting to think about maybe some compartmentalizing that's happened here for him.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did I go off the rails?
Well, it was on a similar line to what I was thinking in terms of like, I wonder what the messaging has been in their religion around what their roles should look like now that they are married, right? And has anything else changed being married? Like, if they do come from religious backgrounds, were they living together before marriage? Like, I don't know, has things changed in that realm, which changes some.
She doesn't say what religion it is,
right?
So we don't really have much context to go off of, like as to what. But if you're discouraging sex before marriage, my assumption would be that living with a partner before marriage would be discouraged.
Right. So have things changed there? That maybe that's prompting some of these other changes. Like maybe this is an overwhelming shift for him, especially now that he knows that he is going to be a father, right? Like they've been married for 6 months and now they have a short married life before they're becoming parents. Like that can be overwhelming for some people. And some people don't have education and knowledge around pregnancy, and he might genuinely feel like he's going to be hurting the baby. And that there could be a genuine turnoff, right?
Yeah, I think that, there could be some misinformation, or maybe he could benefit from some additional information around sex when your partner's pregnant. Yeah. One thing that she does emphasize is that this decline was happening before then. So I wonder if, similar to our last, the first post we talked about, that perhaps the plan to get pregnant, if that was a very early on in their marriage, let's try to get pregnant, if that added to some stress or anxiety or maybe pressure around sex, and before she conceived, that perhaps that was serving as a barrier. But it is interesting that she's noticing he's still masturbating and he's falling asleep on the couch and avoiding sleeping in bed with her, which does raise a few questions. Yeah. Again, more questions here. There's some secretive behavior maybe going on, or some hiding of some behaviors going on. Like, I wonder, this like common behavior that we hear about in the work that we do with people that struggle with pornography addiction, that they hide their masturbation and their pornography use from their partners. They can lose interest in sex with a real partner. Some of them struggle with erectile dysfunction. She's not mentioning any issues around erectile dysfunction, but the loss of interest in sex with a partner is often a common theme for individuals that struggle with pornography addiction. So it was just something that I thought was interesting that just reminded me of some of the behaviors I've seen in other individuals I've worked with that particular struggle.
Yeah. I was curious if the masturbation was happening with the pregnancy, right? And that's easily justified because of being fearful.
Mm-hmm.
Or if the masturbation was also happening
Right. Did she notice
prior
that
to that.
before? Again,
Yeah.
either way,
So many questions because there's so
big
many
change.
details.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess I just want to validate how painful it is, especially for a female partner in a heterosexual relationship, to not feel desired and sexy and wanted by their male partner, because so much of our value as women, whether that be good or bad, is often there's a lot of emphasis around how desirable women are to men. And if you're not feeling wanted by your partner, it's intensely painful and very, there's a lot of shame wrapped up in that. Like, what's wrong with me?
Right.
Am I not good enough? She's worried she's not as attractive to him anymore. And that can be just a really, really tough place to be. And not to say that it's not difficult if the roles were reversed, it is. But we have a lot of assumptions, stereotypes that, men are supposed to be chasing around women, practically begging for sex. And if you're in a heterosexual relationship and your male partner has lost nearly all interest in having sex with you, that's a very lonely place to be. And she says that she feels very lonely even though he's right there. So that's super hard. I actually think this couple would be a good candidate for sex therapy.
Yeah, absolutely.